Good day. Today's topic, let's talk about clipping and what clipping really is. Hopefully this video that I'm demonstrating can show you what clipping really is. I have a balanced input op-amp setup as what you'll find in your microphone preamp stage. That's set up for XLR. We have a positive signal and a negative signal. I'm running at a 15 volt power supply rail, and let's see what happens and what real clipping is. At 1 volt peak to peak reference at 0 dB, there is no clipping, and this is a distortion right here, 0, no clipping. Let's see what happens if I turn up this mic pre or the gain that's going to the recording device. Alright, and at 9 dB, that's past what your VU meter can indicate. Still no clipping, clean sine wave. Let's turn it up some more, and at the moment is at 0.001 total harmonic distortion. That is not something that you can hear, and this is showing 9 dB. So let's actually makes this clip. Alright, so far we got a 12 dB, 14 dB, and let's adjust the oscilloscope. Still no clipping at 16 dB. And if I keep turning up, I'm up into 18 dB, still no clipping. 19 dB, start to clip at 19 dB, and you have still a very low distortion rate. You can see where the sine wave here at the top starts squared off, 19 dB. And if you notice, the distortion rate here is still, this is not something that you can hear. Right, so let's increase. Still can't hear this, and at 20 dB that exceeds what your VU meter can show. Still no clipping. Let's increase from the signal generator, the signal that's going inside of like a microphone preamp. So we increase it to 2 volts. Now this is clipping. See, the total harmonic distortion at 19%, and that's clipping. And again, this is when you're running like a semi-professional board, like a Mackie, or back in the days one of those Soundcraft console or similar console. These semi-professional console, they're run off a 15 volt power supply, plus and minus 15 volts. So let's do the same thing on a more professional console that uses a plus and minus 24 volts power supply. So I'm going to increase the power supply, 24 volts plus and 24 volts minus. Let's see what happened at that voltage increase. Alright. And let's see what the oscilloscope is showing us. A slight clip right here at 26 dB at 600 ohms load. And at a 600 ohms load, I have a, say a 1%, square it, 1% total harmonic distortion, and that's something you can really hear either. So let's change this input stage to a typical 10,000 ohms, and let's do a check on it. A check. So it's at 0.4, the square root 0.4 total harmonic distortion. This O2 is not what you can hear, and at 26 dB of a relevantly smooth sine wave. Alright, and let's see, if I increase the input voltage at 3 volts, then you see it starts to clip. That is clipping, and when you look at the distortion rate, it shows you that the distortion went up, and that's really clipping. Alright, and if I adjust back down the mic pre at 23 dB, that exceeds what your VU meter can show you. It's still not clipping. Distortion none, still not clipping. So not because when you're mixing or recording you see a blink for a couple seconds or less than a second of the VU meter showing red, it doesn't mean that your recording is distorted. It doesn't mean that. Alright, if it stays in the red permanently, or say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds, then it may raise a concern, and that again it depends on the console you're using. If you're using an API, SSL or Neve, you could actually bury the needles, bury the two mix, and still no distortion. Right? If you use it like a Mackie console, a semi-professional console, then it's a concern. So here's what I and Tubbies did back in the day. We recalibrate the VU meter for absolute maximum reading. So once we go past 0, then we know for sure it's a clip line. So what they do, the designers do, is to allow the clip light to comes on real early, so it warns you off real early. It's like your gas tank. When the empty light comes on, it doesn't mean that you're out of gas immediately. When your empty light comes on, then you have about 50 miles in most cars to drive safely to a gas station before you're totally out of gas. So when you mix in a little blink of red light here, there, and there, it not necessarily mean clipping, especially for low frequencies. Right? That not necessarily mean clipping at high frequency like your 10K, 16K, where your tambourine, your hi-hats, and anything in that register, you have to pay a little more attention. But you should also learn to trust your ears, and not always go by the ears, because a lot of those songs you hear we mix, I and Tommy's mix, we push it, but we know exactly where limit is. So hopefully this can take away the confusion about what clipping really is. Thank you very much. Goodbye.